All right, we're live. Hey, everybody. My name's Steve Forcum. I am the Director of Program Management here at SIPPIO, and I've got a couple of colleagues with me to chat all about some of the really exciting stuff that was announced yesterday at Microsoft Inspire. You can definitely see the potential for AI to really make our lives a heck of a lot better and to just make work a heck of a lot less work. So I want to join or invite up to the main stage two of my peers, Paul McMillan, I'm sorry, Chief Evangelist here at SIPPIO, and Ted Stuchberry, Director of Cloud Communications here at SIPPIO as well. Hey, guys.
Hey, Steve. How's it going?
Good, good. So, let's just jump right out of the chute. What did you guys think of Inspire, either from watching it or kind of listening to it or reading about it afterwards?
Yeah, a lot of great announcements. Obviously, a lot of very interesting angles around AI. I think Copilot. Let's remove the financial considerations for
Oh,
the
we'll
moment,
get there.
and let's just talk about what it's capable of doing. Right. Just tremendous productivity gains that you can see individually with a team. We were literally just talking about this the other day around Copilot, around just the ability to actually take your meeting summaries, get tasks built out for people that may have joined a meeting late, may have to leave early. All these things really kind of compound to really make things a lot easier for those individuals that are participating in meetings. You don't have to sit there and take notes if you're not inclined to take notes and be able to pay attention very well at the same time. So I think a lot of very interesting benefits around AI for teams. And then, I'm interested in what Ted has to say as well.
Yeah. So thanks, Paul. I mean, this is, really it's just changing the paradigm of your conversations now, right? I mean, the fact that with Copilot here, typically you'd have your conversations and you'd be writing your notes, especially if you're talking to somebody, business wise. You got to collect all the information and then try to retain that yourself, right? I mean, it all works to your memory. It all works to what you're working on, and this is really going to incredibly help what's going on. It's not just a recording. It's going to, it's going to, like Paul mentioned, your tasks. What are the outcomes of the meetings? What are the key points of the meetings? Those are the things that are going to be kind of aggregated for you as part of this. This is just, like say, game changing in terms of how you do communications and how you can communicate with your customers, your partners, your colleagues as you're doing business.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if anybody watches Suits, I'm late to the game. I just started watching Suits, but Harvey would be nowhere without Donna. And Donna is the one that really kind of keeps the trains moving and makes sure that Harvey's where he's supposed to be and whatnot. But organizations can't afford to buy every person a Donna. We can't staff every person with their own EA. Copilot really fills that gap, in my opinion. It becomes my traffic cop, my enforcement agent. Like, Steve, you got to get this stuff done for this next call, and to be able to wrap up those calls, and even some of the ones that I may have had to multitask during or whatnot, to create that presence there is going to be invaluable. And like I said in the beginning, it's going to make getting work done a heck of a lot less work, because I'm not going to have to sit there and chase people. They're not going to have to sit there and remind me 6 times on what was said or what I said I'd do that I forgot about 5 minutes after I said I'd do it. I think there's going to be tremendous opportunity for productivity to rise from this thing, but it won't come free.
No,
And that's the interesting thing that was announced yesterday. They finally announced pricing for Copilot, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I do like the idea that that they've done this across the whole suite of productivity products, right? Because there's value in each aspect of the productivity tool that they're bringing, right? If you think about the ability to complete a meeting and have them have Copilot generate a follow-up email. I mean, that's huge, right? That's a major tie-in, right? Because we get done with our calls, we're scrambling to get to the next call. Maybe we're supposed to follow up with a customer or partner, maybe 3 or 4 hours later, like, oh, I gotta send that email out, right? So I think those types of attributes of embedding AI across the productivity suite really generate a lot of value at an individual level. I think it really just makes your life so much easier.
Well, and even to that point, right? I mean, if we've all worked in different corporations where people have different styles, different strategies of how they put minutes out or how they put that information to the rest of the team, and getting a consistent way of doing this across the board. I mean, you're going to have a lot more consistency in the way this stuff does if you continue to use it, right? So those that are using it, it's going to come across and it's going to have its tone and it's going to have how it pulls together those meetings. And of course, it's going to take what came from the meeting. So there's going to be tone that's coming from the meeting as well. But it's going to be fairly consistent, I would believe, coming across from what's generated. Of course, you edit whatever you need to edit before you click send. But that to me is going to be very that to me is going to also be a key factor of you're going to get a lot more minutes out of it rather than people forgetting to do it or forgetting what actually happened during the meeting because they didn't take good notes. And B, it's going to be consistent across your enterprise, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be very consistent.
I'm struck by in this space because we've all been in this space for a long time, and we've seen the maturation of this technology over time, and we always refer to the best thing that technology can actually bring to your collaboration experience is to make it frictionless, right? So back in the day, that used to be, hey, I didn't have to enter 7 passcodes, remember a PIN number, right, and hope that my video worked. But this really takes it to a whole other level in terms of making it. It really allows you to participate and focus on the actual collaboration experience and takes care of all the administrative important stuff, right? But it just kind of leaves it to another entity to kind of take care of that for you. So I'm extremely excited by what this could bring, and hope I'm one of the ones that can get Copilot so that I can find that out.
Yeah, early versions of that will be pretty cool to try.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: if I can't, I may have to take out of my pocket and buy it because I can just see the value instantly from this thing. It's your point on consistency, I think, is important. But to me, one of the best ways that technologies get adopted is when they're transparent. Yeah. When I don't have to think about it, when I don't have to remember to press a button when I join, or remember to hit the certain keywords for it to go on. When it's just there and it's just present and it just works, that is really where the uptake on this really goes through the roof. And it feels like Microsoft's nailed that. It's embedded into the Teams experience. It's embedded into the entire Office suite. They showed yesterday one of the demos. I don't remember which presenter it was, so I'll apologize. But one of the presenters basically took the PowerPoint that was presented and uploaded it into Copilot, because Copilot's using GPT-4, so it can actually see. It's not just AI that can read, but now it can see. And it was able to evaluate the slides presented and write a summary email for the rep for a follow-up. So this is the content that was presented during the session. Incredibly powerful stuff. And I think they're also really smart to be leaning into what I think they called Copilot for sales, basically looking at sales as, here's a tremendous opportunity where there's a ton of, I don't want to say busy work, but kind of follow-up tasks that are required, after meetings, after discussions, a million different applications you need to touch. So, things like your CRM and whatnot. And to have Copilot do a majority of that work for you, powerful, powerful stuff.
Yeah. It's also, you think about it from the financial perspective. I mean, sales is one of those areas where if they can get the benefit, they'll spend the money, right? So it's
absolutely,
it's a smart play by Microsoft.
Yeah. I mean, I think the ROI will be readily transparent.
Well, exactly. That they'll just be able to compute, right? Here's what it cost. Here's kind of the extra, the time to revenue, or how it sped up the sale, or how many extra sales because I was able to talk to more people. That stuff from a sales side, I mean, it's black and white, right? You can see the numbers, and they'll be able to just, well, here's my ROI on this. Right.
So there was another really interesting thing announced yesterday, And it kind of got lost in some of the higher level announcements. If you look at some of the press, it really seems to focus in on the Azure for AI, the partnership with Meta for Llama 2, but they also announced Copilot for Teams Phone. And one of the things that brought me to SIPPIO was I see the market changing and a lot of organizations kind of taking a hard look at their legacy phone system and saying, do I really need to keep spending to keep this thing quote unquote current when I already have Microsoft Teams? And most of the discussions I was running into at my past employer was, how does this integrate with Teams? And I think the next natural step is going to be, do I need to have that thing versus just treating voice as a feature that I turn on instead of a thing I buy? And to me, the launch of Copilot for Microsoft Teams Phone is a game changer, because it really shows the value of using cloud calling. What did you think, Paul?
Yeah, I think it's you used the phrase earlier when we were kind of talking in preparation for this. It kind of changes the nature of what a phone call is, right?
I'll take that. Wasn't Mike? I won't take credit for that. I saw that in the comments somewhere, and it just was like, you're right. This totally reinvents what a phone call is.
And I think, in conjunction with the other things that Microsoft has done for Teams Phone, right? And there's some other announcements we'll talk about. It will really bolster the ROI, right? Or the TCO, if that's how you measure your investments, right? For adopting Teams Phone, right? It will really kickstart, I think, another wave of growth on Teams Phone in a big way. So I'm extremely excited about AI in general, as you and I have been speaking about over the last several weeks. But to me, like I said, I think Microsoft has done a phenomenal job of embedding Copilot across all aspects of the productivity suite. It's extremely smart play.
Yeah, no, and to your point, Paul, and back same to you, Steve. I mean, we've all been, some of us have been in the telecom industry for a long time, right? And we've watched it grow, and we've watched it change, we've watched it morph. And the way we see things are not legacy. It's what Microsoft doing is hitting the nail on the head, right? They're making phone calls applications. It's just another part of your business suite. It is not this thing that's sitting way the heck over here. And as it becomes part of that business suite, well, you know what? It's also building up from all the pieces that's being built up for that business suite. So as you get kind of these capabilities in PowerPoint, or as you get these capabilities in meetings, you also get those in your phone communications, in your communications out to the rest of the world, because it's all one big suite, and with applications within that suite. And that's where, and like you say, it's changing what a phone call is. Well, Microsoft already started changing what phone calls were, and this is an evolution of that change, right? That change is coming, that change is happening. And we're going to see this more and more, because who the heck needs something that is completely separate, sitting over in a corner, that's just my phone system? I don't need that if I'm using a suite of tools that already provides that same capability without hardware, without all this extra. And now, guess what? It's also my assistant, right? It can take my notes for me. I don't need that box. I don't need anything else. Microsoft, thank you very much, right? I mean, this is exactly where things should be going, where we would expect them to go. And as soon as they embed that into my flying car,
I'm set. I don't want to be underneath you with your flying car.
I'm not looking. I'm on the phone.
Exactly. It's interesting because before Copilot, Microsoft research showed that just by moving and retiring your legacy phone system and using Teams Phone, by making voice a feature that you turn on, you could lower your TCO by 45%. You saw an ROI within 6 months. This is just going to accelerate that even farther, because now it's not just cost reductions. Now it's potential revenue increases, because now your sales reps have Copilot helping guide them to make sure that, quote unquote, nothing falls through the cracks, that every single customer that you're talking to has adequate follow-up, that you're really kind of serving their needs in a way that they want to be served. we almost need to redo that research. And that research, I don't think was that old. I just saw it not too many, a couple months ago. So this is going to be one of those things that a lot of enterprises, in my opinion, we're already starting to question the need to keep a standalone phone system in play because it's there, the whole, we don't want disruption, but the innovation that's being delivered by Microsoft and Teams Phone and Copilot, it's worth the disruption. And it's not really even that disruptive because you already have Teams.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Your users are already in this app. If anything, it's not disruptive because now you're starting to streamline some of the app sprawl. Instead of having, well, I use this app for, messaging and calling and collaboration, but then I've got this thing over to the side when I need to make and receive phone calls, to basically create a super app for your users, to have one app that works no matter what device I've got, no matter where I happen to be. And now it's got this innovation that's being delivered in the form of Copilot and some of the other stuff we're going to talk about. That really is just, it's making the decision and not a decision. I mean, in all honesty, it's really, if you're an IT leader, if you're a CIO, you really got to look at, what am I spending to maintain this legacy infrastructure, to make it highly available and globally redundant? And then what does it cost to just turn Teams, turn voice on in Teams, to turn on Teams Phone? And to me, the math is becoming really, really easy to do. So, that wasn't the only thing they announced. Copilot for Teams Phone is going to listen in on your calls. It's going to summarize them for you. It's going to harvest out the action items and deliver those to you. And that's just right out of the chute and what they gave us, visibility to. It's probably going to morph into something dramatically more impressive as time goes on, because with advents of things like GPT-4 and whatnot, it's really going to blossom. But there was a few other things they announced. And one of the other things that I think was really interesting is what they're calling shared calling. And we don't have a lot of details on this yet. They just announced it. But this is another one of those things that, again, that CIO, that IT leader, and then even within specific verticals, I'm thinking hospitality off the top of my head. One of the things that holds back the shift from an on-premise capital expenditure model to a cloud-based operating expense model is, I've got a lot of phones that I really even don't want to put them out, except fire code, like in the hospitality space. I've got to have a phone in each guest room just for fire code. But the idea of paying monthly for those versus just paying once in a capital model has been kind of a holdback. Shared line or shared calling seems to be an unlock for more slices of the industry, because now all of a sudden, Paul, keep me honest, I'm not necessarily going to need a calling plan and a DID for every single phone I put out there. I'm going to really be able to kind of target the use cases.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So when I first saw the announcement yesterday, I was like, ooh, that's probably going to make some operators a little unhappy, right? Especially the ones that like to sell DIDs. Mm-hmm. But then I thought about it a little bit more. I think what this does, I think it opens up access to a part of the market that was currently hesitant about getting into Teams, right? So, I mean, we all know that, the SMB market and certain verticals, the key system functionality where you have a single number and then everybody behind them, users can dial off of that same kind of, main number, right? That's really a big piece of what shared calling is going to allow for now, right? So now I don't have to have, if I have a small office, 30, 40 people, I don't have to have 40 DIDs now. I can use a single DID as the main number and drive the calls through that main number. And that's going to suffice for a lot of businesses today that were currently probably hesitant about using Teams voice. Now, on top of that, they also announced the ability to use a shared calling plan as part of that, right? So a single calling plan shared amongst all those users in the office. So now, if you're an office that has, a relatively low amount of calling, right? You're not driving a ton of minutes. Splitting that up across those users, that's a pretty significant effect, right? So that, I think that the net takeaway for me is that will unlock a part of the market that was currently shying away from using Teams as their voice platform. I think they'll dive in now with that capability.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see more details as they come out on those capabilities. I know folks that are heavy into Teams admin and using the capability was there before, but it was really hard to unlock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So creating extensions on users and creating the masking and everything that you could do before, while it was there, it was not easy, and there was a lot of things that you had to do. So I'm really interested to see kind of as they come out with the details of, well, what's the setup for this? How do you do it? And if they're making it easier, if they're doing to this like they've done to the rest of the kind of phone setup, then that is going to be great, because you're right, that really does hit the key system market. That does hit the a number of auto attendants and things where people just kind of sit behind a main number, and they don't want to have a lot of numbers out there that people can kind of dial into the company, right? They find that a security risk too, right? So I can just go phishing to anybody in my company. If you can stop some of that, then that's, there's a number of companies that are just like, yeah, just main number, please, only.
Yeah, so I think the operators, I think, will probably be a little bit perturbed by this.
I get it, yeah.
But interestingly enough, Microsoft retained that everybody still has to have a phone license. So
yeah,
Microsoft is no dummy when it comes to this stuff, right? They're very smart about making sure that, hey, we're going to benefit from this for sure.
But let me also say, or go ahead, Ted.
I was just going to say, on the operator side, though, right? I mean, that's just something they can be working with as well. I mean, they work through key systems, they work through on-prem PBXs, they work through, so it's just a coming up with a plan. Like, what am I going to do? Am I just going to basically just allow for one DID and a plan on one DID, or am I going to come up with a strategy of, hey, if you're using this is what you buy through, kind of. So those are, again, we've got to get details. And once we have more details, people will start, coming up with plans as to how to address this market.
Well, the good news is it doesn't launch until later this calendar year, so we have a good a little bit of lead time to kind of see exactly how this all comes together.
Let me take a different tack at this, and I definitely hear you. I think a lot of operators are looking at this saying, this is, to your point, Paul. You're getting yours, Microsoft, with the phone system license, but now you're basically trying to really streamline out. But let me take a different approach. And I think you guys are looking down market, that SMB, the pizza shop that says, I've got one phone number, but I got 5 users or whatever. Go up market. There's a lot of large organizations that have a lot of common area phones, a lot like a manufacturing floor. I don't need a DID for every single one of those phones. And when they did the math, it made more sense to build a phone system, because I've got all these extra lines that in a cloud model, I'm paying per user per month for, but in a premise model, I pay once and I sweat the heck out of that asset. It's just a phone sitting in a cube, right? Or it's just a phone sitting in a manufacturing cell. So this could be a tremendous unlock for an operator, even without any type of adjustments to their business model, because now all of a sudden you can go to those large businesses and say, you get a calling plan for the people that need a calling plan. But for the rest of your organization, you can still support those users without having to do something unnatural, keeping a phone system just for those users. I've seen that happen. My past employer, we used to talk to people about keeping an old, a smaller phone system just for the analog lines, and, moving everybody else to cloud, trying to merge the two things. This really creates a more natural approach, a single system approach, while still giving an operator an opportunity to grow market share. Because, let's look at it. If you think about the customer diffusion curve, Teams Phone is really kind of still in that early innovator slice of the market. There's 5 slices: the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, late majority, and it's about to jump to early majority. But in order to do that, it's got to fit these kind of challenges that more organizations face, not just the SMBs, but also a lot of the reason why a lot of large organizations are hesitant. And this really checks that box. So I could potentially go. I used hospitality as an example. I can go to a hotel or hotel chain and talk about, look, you can do this and you don't need to pay monthly for the phones that don't need, a DID, and they're not high traffic phones. They're just there in case of lobby phones, kitchen phones, whatever. But then you can also start going even farther up market, and really tell a more compelling story. And then you layer in Copilot and everything else, and it's just going to take off. So I think the combination of these two things, I understand why carriers kind of looked at that and were a little hesitant about the announcement. I was, I'm looking at it saying, all right, well, what does this do? But when I slept on it, really thought about it, to me, it actually opens up a larger slice of the market. And this is also another one of those things that's needed to jump from early adopter into early majority, which is where the market is.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's happening here is it's Microsoft is making it evident that they're thinking about this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've thought about the common area phone. So to your example, they came up with a common area phone license. Okay, well, that was one way of tackling this, and then they're thinking about the use cases. They're implementing new functionality. One of the things that you've got to just feel very confident about is that they are coming up with new use cases. They are coming up with new functionality. They are coming up with new capabilities within these solutions. You're getting future proofed. You're knowing that if you do come in this direction, that maybe it doesn't have everything right away, but you could be talking to Microsoft. You can be given ideas. You can be saying, well, here are some additional use cases. And you know what? It may be 90 days. It may be a year and a half. But those things, they tend to work their way into the product, and you're seeing that. Evolution, that updates of the product happening, and that to me is one of the key things that you want to see for your solution. And you know what? There's nothing you need to do. You don't have to go do a software upgrade. You don't have to go do all this stuff. It just shows up, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you get Copilot, it's going to show up, and you want to turn it on. So those are some of the key aspects of this. So yeah, I mean, it's a new way of looking at it. They looked at it in one way. They're looking at larger use cases and adding to those use cases and adding on.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's again, the CIO who's got a 6-figure upgrade quote in front of them for their legacy phone system. You really got to ask, what am I getting for this? Yeah. And for a lot of the answer for a lot of those systems is not really much, because having worked for one, they're feature complete. What else do you want me to add to a phone system, right? It makes calls, it receives calls. Microsoft's taken a different approach by basically saying voice is just another channel in your collaboration environment, whether it's one-to-many or one-to-one. And the innovation that we're working on for this flows down to that. So you're getting much more for your dollar, and you're early in cycle. So to your point, Ted, you're seeing new features come almost monthly with this stuff versus, well, you got to upgrade, you got to spend this 6 figures. So this way you can stay current with your OSs. So this way you can get security patches. That's kind of a really challenging justification to spend money. With Teams Phone and what they're doing with Copilot and all sorts of other functionality, it's a whole different ballgame. Paul, you had something you wanted to add. Sorry, I went on my little soapbox.
I was just saying that PBX upgrade quote is a cheap one.
Yeah. I'm trying to be generous.
Yeah. No, I think I do think it unlocks a lot more access to Teams Phone for a lot of different customers now that currently, like I said, we're a little bit hesitant to jump in. I do think you'll see them jump in. Obviously, details forthcoming on exactly what it is they do. And how it actually works and what the configuration requirements are. But my expectation would be that they simplified it dramatically from what was currently in place, because that was a nightmare. So I think you'll see a lot of adoption.
Absolutely. So there was another thing that was announced. Operator Connect is now expanded into India, one of the largest growing markets on the planet. If you're a fan of Scott Galloway, as I am, he's repeatedly kind of preached on the Markets podcast that India is going to be the next economic boom. You can see large organizations like Apple and others really targeting that region. And now with Operator Connect being available in India, or will be available in India, that potentially has another opportunity to fuel another growth boom for Teams Phone adoption. What do you guys see there? Do you guys see the same opportunity I do, or what are you guys' thoughts on that?
So this is really interesting because India is obviously it's a country near and dear to my heart from my days at Tata, and it's 100% the truth that they are massively expanding the infrastructure in India, and it was in need of it clearly, but they really are going to great lengths to modernize the infrastructure underneath. Kind of a not so well kept secret about Microsoft Teams in India was when Teams launched, there was an audio conferencing offer that was part of Teams, and in India, that feature had massive adoption, but it was only specific to India. So I do think there's a huge market opportunity that Microsoft clearly sees there. I think opening up Operator Connect in India will absolutely drive, again, more users to the platform for voice. But the underlying element here that's super important is that the work that that the Indian government and the operators have taken inside of India to upgrade the infrastructure lays the foundation for this, right? And now we're talking, they're leapfrogging, the current technology. They're going into, massive fiber build outs, 5G systems, everything's kind of being modernized, to current scale. So I do think it'll see a pretty significant adoption once it's in place.
Yeah, and I think if you've dealt with India or dealt with trying to do telecom in India, there's a lot of challenges there, right? There's a lot of there are quite a few roadblocks of how you would do cloud, how you use cloud communications, the way the regulatory systems are set up. You need somebody like Microsoft in there, somebody who has the weight behind it to talk to the regulators, talk to the governments, and just build out the infrastructure such that you can actually have a solution that meets the needs of the Indian people and the government and the likes, to make sure that it can work. And they've obviously done, they've done their job. They've put that stuff together to simplify it. And that's one of the great things is that they do all kind of that bottom end stuff that you don't need to see, right? You don't need to know about all that regulation. You don't need to know about all that stuff. Microsoft's taking care of that for the most part from that for their Operator Connect. So, good on them again for doing all that legwork, doing all that the heavy lifting there to actually make this turn into something that's going to be usable for the market. I think it's just like you say. I mean, it's a massive market, and it's a market that wants to have simplification as well. Like everyone wants the simplification. Right. So, this will be great to just kind of tie all that together.
Yeah. I think it also opens up the opportunity for those large multinational customers, right? We have a lot of those A-side customers residing here in the States and in Europe that have significant operations, right, in India. And so to date, to get access to India was not an easy task, right? So formalizing this under a program like Operator Connect and getting access, I think will pay tremendous dividends and will give those A-side kind of multinationals the ability to reach out and extend their telephony capabilities into India. So that's I think a big win.
Sounds good. So we've been on for a while now. I want to be respectful of you guys' time. Let's just quick thoughts. What do you guys think? What do you think the future looks like? Any rapid thoughts from Inspire? Paul, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think Microsoft, they hit a home run, right, with the announcements around AI. Again, details to follow. The only piece that I would say is will be interesting to watch is the price points. But I expect there to be some relatively good success with Copilot in the market. And I think from a Teams Phone perspective, the calling capabilities that are being added, the expansion into India will certainly increase the access to the platform, and I think you'll see uptake as a result.
Great. Ted?
Yeah, and like I've said, I'm really excited about the evolution of the platform, right? I like to see the new stuff come out. I like to see being able to leverage those capabilities. I want, and seeing all this, the new functionality. Again, it makes me feel confident that I've made the right choice as to where telecom is going and what area I'm jumping into, and it certainly keeps me excited and keeps me on my toes in terms of what do I now need to know to make sure that I can make our solutions work very well within this ecosystem, and they keep simplifying my life, and I'll keep accepting that.
Yeah. So my view is Microsoft is really going beyond Teams is a no-brainer because you're an Office 365 user. That was the reason why I think a lot of organizations adopted Teams in the first place in the early days of the pandemic was we need something fast. We're an Office 365 shop. We have Teams. It's quote unquote included or quote unquote free. Let's just do it. And, that's created some challenge in the marketplace. Obviously, some of the competitors cried foul because they didn't think it was fair or whatnot. But they're showing customers a reason why Teams is the right choice, not the default choice, but the right choice. And the infusion of AI into the entire productivity suite, it's like a layer of icing all over the cake. And it's not thin in anywhere, one space or spot. It really is just put everywhere. And that is just going to drive productivity through the roof. And, I think the ROI is going to be readily apparent for, adding this capability to each end user, especially your knowledge workers, because of the value that it's going to drive. Whether you're in a meeting or whether you're on a one-to-one phone call, having that AI assistant that is just doing a lot of the tactical busy work for you will free you up to do a lot more productive work, and that just validates I think the choice, and it really kind of makes moving to Teams Phone a no-brainer compared to what you're spending in a legacy phone system. Why keep investing in something to simply stay current with the underlying operating system? There's no new functionality being delivered. If you treat voice as a feature to turn on, you're getting a whole lot more value for it, not to mention saving a ton of money. So it checks the two key performance indicators. How does this help me lower my costs? How does it help me increase revenue? Teams Phone and Teams as a platform do both, and especially with these capabilities. And I think Satya really kind of jumped ahead of the pack. There's a meme on the internet showing the Google CEO Sundar Pichai. They chopped it up and he said like AI, generative AI, nonstop through an interview. Microsoft isn't just saying the word AI and saying the buzzword generative AI. They're showing how it's used across their portfolio. This stuff is real. And the open embrace of third parties to bring in, something like a Lambda from Meta to create a Copilot framework. Microsoft came out and said, we don't want to be the only one-stop shop for this. We want third-party developers using our frameworks to build Copilots that, are fit for purpose, that, can do things better. This is a brand new Microsoft. This isn't the Microsoft I grew up with. And I think this really shows the power of this organization and the visionary leadership that they're driving through. So I'm really, really excited about what the future looks like with Teams, with Microsoft. And I think I'm just going to put a pin in it there. This was a great session. Thanks, Paul and Ted, for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about how to quickly and easily move your organization to Teams Phone, SIPPIO is the simple solution. We make it fast, we make it flexible, we make it easy. So check us out on the web, sippio.io, or check us out on LinkedIn, where we're at right now. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, guys, for joining me.
Thanks, Steve.
Have a good one. Thanks, guys.